So each good flower making session starts with collecting your scraps. These are scraps I just have a leftover from a project that I'm doing, a junk journal that I'm just doing. And I'm going to go over what I have because I want to decorate. So these two pieces are double-sided cardstock, or actually three. These are one-sided cardstock, which means the back of it is white. And I have some that are some of the papers are very, very thin. Their papers are not cardstock, which is too thin or too light for making flowers. So I may want to do something about that. The first thing I want to do is color the back, the white background on the one-sided cardstock. And I pick up a coordinating color, and this is a dark plum, because my paper is a sort of a plum color, and I'm just going over the back of it. If you do not have colored inks, you can also use markers or even regular acrylic paint or watercolors. I wouldn't do watercolor because too wet will ruin the paper and you will not cut as well. You need the paper to be very dry. So acrylic is okay, but make sure it's totally dry before you go ahead and cut it. Ink is okay because ink dries faster. Okay. This I'm using Catherine Puller's ink for this. It's not my preferred way, let me put it this way, because ink is expensive and I find that it will use a lot of my ink if I just use it instead of paint. So it's not necessary. Because I was short on time, I just went ahead and did that. So now I'm taking two of the cardstocking paper and I'm going to glue them back to back. This is just very light paper, as I said. So I'm just going to I'm going to glue it over. I can either glue it to each other or you can glue it over something else. So right now I'm gluing it over another color cardstock. And I'm doing the same to the other strip. And the other paper underneath is also colored cardstock in a different color. I'm using art glitter glue, which happened to dry clear and very fast. First, you can use dies or cut them out in your die cutting machine or even by hand. You'll need for each flower a set of minimum of 3 petals. The large one is 2 inches in diameter, the middle is 1.5 inch, and the smaller one is 1 inch that you see here. These are just examples of dies that I have. And each petal has the same shape, but you don't have to use them together. There are also smaller dies that can make the center of the flowers. And if you don't have small dies, you can use anything else, which I will demonstrate a couple of centers. Also, you need pattern papers or solid colors, cardstock, or both. In these flowers, I'm showing you that you have both solid color and colored cardstock. These are already cutouts that I went ahead and made. When I have scrap paper, I just do a cutting session and I'll take all my scraps and I'll cut flowers out of them. And then later I can assemble them together. So here are some of the scraps that I have, and when I do the session of die cutting, not only I cut whatever I have scraps from this particular project that I just finished, but I just go grab a few scraps that I have in my drawer and I go ahead and cut those as well. So usually I keep them in pieces of 3x4s. You can see in these scraps there are already a couple of holes in them because I used them before. And I have one piece here that is 3x3. And each one of those pieces will be able to cut at least 3 petals. So I'm just grabbing some of my dies and I will place them over my pieces. And I aim to have 3 different sizes on each of these pieces. Just go ahead and try to maximize and do as many as you can. And sometimes because I have the hole right there in the middle, I really don't have a place for a bigger one. I'm just using some same size petals there. Do whatever you can. You know, it's one thing that you can use and not throw the scrap out. Just run it through your die cut machine, take this all out, and again, each one of those you can make a flower. You can make the flower from the same theme cardstock, or you can mix and match with other cardstocks that you have in your tray. There are various ways that you can choose which cardstock to use or what colors to use. You can use the same family colors, or you can use all of the flower to be made from the same cardstock that you cut the petals out of. This one, for example, is 2 different colors cardstock with 2 different color backgrounds. This one I glued both 2 papers back to back because they're thin scrapbook paper, and I need the flowers to be more substantial, so I cut them back to back, and I can from one cut use 2. This is a remnant of 3x4 cardstock that I cut 4 petals out of. The same here. You can use remnants of cardstock, put it aside, and then in one session just go ahead and cut. One 3x4 piece of cardstock can give you very nice 3 or 4 petals. This is something that I put black cardstock in the back because I hand painted this paper. And this is 2 thin cardstock papers. They're not cardstock, but they're glued back to back, so it becomes a little heavy. And here are some butterfly cutouts that I cut. Not showing you what to do with butterflies today, but when you do a cutting session, it's cute to put butterflies here and there as well. These are all of my leaf dies, and I collect them from different collections that I buy. Every time I see something interesting, I will purchase because they're universal. You can use those over everything. Most of the golds that you see there, 5 of those are from the same set by Anna Griffin. One on the left is Graphic 45. Some of them are just dies that I purchased in Stampin' Up collections, and some of them I just found on Amazon. So I collected them over the years, and they have various. Oh, this one is Tim Holtz. So I just use them together. There are no rhyme or reason. It doesn't have to have a particular leaf when I do my designs. I just take green cardstock, gold cardstock, white, craft colors, neutral colors, and I cut them all out and leave them in a tray for when I will need to use it. So this is from a mirror gold, for example, and the gold cardstock is rather expensive, so I don't use, and none of this is going to waste. When I finish using it for a project, I just use the rest for die cuts. I also use green pattern paper that I showed you here. That also works. Some of the leaves are embossed and some are not. This is a glitter cardstock. Glitter doesn't work very well with die cutting, I find. And you can also use just different colors. Here I used a lilac and a lime green. You know, I just happened to have a little piece and I decided to cut it out. Whenever I do, I just put it in the tray. And when I do a card or I want to embellish something, I just have it ready to be used. Okay, so let's go ahead and make the flowers now. And the first thing that I do is I take my tray with all of my petals and the pieces that I used, and I build them together to give me a 3-petal or 4-petal flowers. Sometimes I will use the same cardstock that I'm doing a project with, to keep the colors in the same monochromatic look. Let's say I do things that are, with brown and yellow, then I will keep the flowers to the same family product, to the same family colors. And sometimes I will mix and match, and just be a little daring and put something that's more colorful, and it will change the vibe of the embellishment completely. So I just sit there right now and I'm looking at what I have, and I'm going to pick up some ink, and it's a really good way with the ink to give it character. Most of the time I will use this pad with, it has gray, vintage photo, espresso brown, and black suit. So these are the basic ones that I will use to define my flowers. And later on I will show you how I use different color inks as well. So I use a flat dauber, and I put it over the ink, and I just lightly go over the edges, and it defines the edge of the petals for me. So if you're doing the same color cardstock, you're building the flower from the same color cardstock, you can see how the one on the left is a little more defined. So when you layer them up, you'll actually see the petal, the shape of the petals, if you ink the edges. So naturally, you're going to ink the side that will be right side up, not the bottom, because you're not going to see the bottom, so you don't need to bother with that. Now go ahead and ink all of your edges right now. So now I'm building a flower that has 4 layers, and it's all from the same cardstock. The cardstock is white and red, so you do see the variation in colors a little bit, and they're bright colors. What I do is I use the stylus or embossing tool, it's called. It has a ball at the end, over a sponge, and the sponge is a little hard. It's not too soft. And I turn it over and I emboss the edges first of the flowers. So I emboss the edges of the petals, and then I'll turn it over and emboss the center. So all embossing, I'm just pressing down with my tool against the sponge, and it breaks the fibers of the paper and bends it. So that's what gives the petals on the flowers its multi-dimensional, 3-dimensional shape. And then you just right, you can take with your hand, you can shape it if you want, and make sure that you get that 3-dimensional look of the flower. After all of your layers are put down together, what you can do is you can put something at the center to make the center pop a little bit. So you can use, like I said, a bunch of different things. Here I'm just using a little bit of sequin. It's a gold sequin to put it in the center. But you can choose a variety of things to put at the center to just finish it off. All right, let's do another flower. This one has 4 petals, and again, it's from the same cardstock. Oh, I have one there that's from a different collection, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges. Just very lightly. I just really want to take the white core, cover the white core of the paper and give it that definition. I turn it over. I press on the edges of the petal. And you see, I don't need to fuss too much with it. Just a couple of squeezes and it will bend. All right, you see how I put the second flower over. The petal is where the two petals meet on the one on the bottom. All right, and this one has a little yellowish tint. I give it a good pressing in the middle and it bends the whole flower. It gives it again that three-dimensional shape. And now to finish off that lovely flower, I want to put something in the middle, and I'm opting to do another sequin piece, except this one is going to be with a different color so that it will make it pop a little more. So I chose, I think it's aqua color sequins, because it goes with the theme of the project that I'm using, and here you see it right there at the center. Okay, let's go make another flower. This one I'm doing from different pattern papers that I just cut from the same papers that I use for this project that I'm doing now. So these have more pinks and beiges and maroon colors. And I'm picking out 2 or 3 petals here. I'm playing around with them just to see what is the combination that I like. So you see the bottom petal and the top petal are from the same pattern. It also has a little bit of glitter. And the middle one is a different pattern paper altogether. The same colors and shade, but a different pattern. So now I picked up a different color ink, and this is a dark plum color. So it is dark, it's concentrated, but it has more of a plum shade to it. It's brand new Catherine Pooler ink, so I think I saturated it just a little too much. So I also went ahead and pulled up my finger daubers, which are small ones, and I put a little bit of the ink on top of that, and I'm coloring the center of my petals. Like I said, it's very new and concentrated, so I'm getting just a little too much there. I can't really blend it the way I wanted, but it'll do. It's okay, because most of the dark there in the center is going to be hidden anyway, but I'm still going to give me the effect that I wanted. So sometimes I keep a piece of paper, like a scrap paper, on the side, and I will remove some of that ink from my dauber just until I know I have the right amount. Because I have already some left over here, I just went and did a couple more at the center. You know, there really aren't, I don't stop to think about every petal, how I do it. It just sort of flows. I sit there for about an hour or 2 hours. I die cut my petals, and then I will ink them and I'll make my flowers. And at the end of this session, I'm going to have a whole bunch of flowers all made up to use in my project, which is a lot of fun, because then they'll be ready. And if I want to do a card, or if I want to make a junk journal and add them to an embellishment, all of the flowers are just going to be ready for me. You can also choose to do them by different colors and really save them in little baggies that have matching colors. I don't. I keep them in a tray or in my drawer, and they're all mixed up because I'm a very colorful person. I do a very colorful project, so sometimes I do just a bunch of mixed ones. Okay, so now let's go ahead and pull some more petals out of the tray and see which ones I want to use. It's really a lot of fun to go over all of them, you know. If you're really OCD, you can arrange them by sizes. Sometimes I do that. If I'm going to do a lot of flowers, I will rearrange them first according to size, and then it's easy for me to just rearrange the flowers that I want, and I work clean. It's like an assembly line. All right, so here's another flower, and I took a different color over there. Okay, so here's my purple flower already. And that is another flower. And that's just how I do it, one by one. Go ahead and make a whole bunch of them together. So now that you learn how to make the flowers, let's go ahead and assemble some and have some fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed up the video for you, put on some music, and I may pop in from time to time to just explain something if I see that something else is worth mentioning. So enjoy! So here I'm just batching the petals together. I'm picking out different petals from my tray, and I'm making a whole bunch of flowers. I'm just sorting this out and making bundles with 3 or 4 petals. I'm trying to see that the colors sort of color block, and that I have interesting combinations that will be pleasing to the eyes. right, so that was fun. So now that we have all our flowers made, let's go ahead and learn how to assemble them and attach them to the elements. So right now I'm making my top pull out tab. So this is a mat actually that I'm adding additional pieces of cardstock to the top part that is about 1¼ inch wide. I'm going to add it to both sides, and I cut it out from the same paper that I used, that is the majority paper that I used for my junk journal, or in the same theme at least. And I cut that out again at 1¼ by 5¼ inches. I'm going to ink the edges of all of my mats and all of my pattern papers. And then I'm going to start assembling the flowers on top of it. So unfortunately, I realized that my camera was too low, but I just really added those strips of pattern paper to the top part where I'm going to be attaching the flowers there. Now I'm taking a little piece of lace, and this lace has some dangles on it, which I like, and I'm adding that to the left part of my tab. I made a bow from some thread that I had, and this is it's a piece of fabric. It's like silk, Indian silk fabric that I have, and I cut strips of it, and I'm making ribbons from that. And now I'm just going to decorate the top part, and I need to keep it to the top layer, so it cannot go past the line where the pattern paper ends, because then it will not go through that pocket. Okay. So I want to add 3 flowers. I'm going to add the blue one in the middle there, will be my focal point, and a couple of smaller ones. And the colors here are a little bit, I'm making one that is a little bright, one with the same colors as my page, so that everything will blend in together. And I'm trying to see how to layer it. Where I want the bow, I want it under the flower, I want it over the flower. Where do I want the leaves? Do I want it on the left side? Do I want it on the right side? Up or down? Play around with your composition until you're happy with the placement. And when you do, add the glue. And if you use the art glitter glue, it dries clear, it's fast, and it's strong. It will last a long time. So that's the glue that I always recommend to use. Okay. I'm trying to add different color leaves. Right now I want to add a little bit of the white there, and you can see that because everything underneath is pretty much the same color, if you add something that's a different color, it'll make it pop. So question is, do you want it to pop on the right? Do you want it to pop on the left? These are the questions that you ask yourself when you're assembling all the elements together. Okay. And you can tuck this under the flowers, you can tuck it under the ribbon. You can also, if you have die cut elements that are pictorials, like little animals or other things, depends on the theme of your card, of your journal, you can always add more elements to the top. Okay? But basically, I'm showing you how to dazzle it up with floral elements. Now this is the small card that will be at the back of my journal, and it will add also as a closure. So I cut out a 4x6 piece from pattern paper, and this pattern paper is very heavy. It's 240 points. It's rather heavy. And I'm adding a little piece of white cardstock to the back. So those two cardstocks together makes a pretty sturdy card. And I'm adding the white cardstock to the back so that it'll have, you can write something on there. It is a junk journal after all, and you are looking for places where you can write things down. I also added a ribbon, same as on the other card. And this one is more of a dark teal color. And I added a piece of paper right at the center there just to keep it sturdy and holding down. I'm going to put something on top of it anyway, so you're not going to be able to see it. Again, I'm taking my elements that I've cut and I'm going to play with my composition. So I do like adding gold foil to my compositions. I think it adds a little bit of richness, flavor to the embellishment. Trying to see, where I want it to be. Now, because this is a little shorter than the first one that I've done, this is only 4 inches. I'm keeping the composition this time to the right, and it's not going to be as busy. It's going to be less busy. But I don't have it just on the top, so this one is not flipping into a pocket that's high. I have more room to add elements. I can go down a little bit with this one because at least half of it will not be inside a pocket. So you can play with a little larger element. So this is the largest set of leaves that I have, and I'm just going to glue it down, add some clips because I want to wait at least 2-3 minutes for the glue to dry for it to stay strong and sturdy. So just add your clips. These clips come in handy. I keep them in my drawer next to me, and there is not one project that I haven't used it in one way or another. So now that it's dry, I'm just removing the clips, and I'm going to add a flower right there at the center. And again, I apologize that my camera just kept going down and you couldn't see the top part. I'm going to place a second flower right there underneath the ribbon and a third one on the left. So again, I'm just taking the various flowers. I'm going to check and see what color flower I really want to put there. Once your flowers are down, you can add a few more leafy elements, maybe smaller ones, and you can also add them on top of the flowers. Just make sure you have some glue down and that you press it down so that you don't want it to be moving too much. So here I'm adding just a little teeny bit of glue on top of the leaves, and I'm going to take my tool and press them down so that it will stay down. And that's it. That is the 2 floral elements that I showed you 2 examples. You can add them to cards, and you can add them right on top of the pages of your journal. I hope you enjoyed it.